Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices, and you can sign up for product alerts. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Obviously this year, the Essen Spiel actual physical game fair is canceled, but they are having a Spiel digital later this week when this video launches. It's going to be between October 22nd and 25th. So what I've done is, like usual, I'll go through all the lists that Eric Martin from Board Game Geek, thanks to him for putting together a great list of games that are going to be in the virtual sort of Spiel digital convention, where you can go on, you can go to publishers, you can go to the game hall, you can see virtual booths, you can see demos, and it actually said that there are games for sale that you can buy. I don't know how that's going to work. Maybe it's just for those that live in that part of the country, but all of the ones on this list are ones that are quote unquote for sale and had a price range and such. So today I'm going to go over the most 10 anticipated games that are going to be presented and supposedly for sale at the Spiel digital game fair. Now I also, the same day that this is launching, I'm launching another video, the top 10 games there at that digital fair that I've already played, ones that are releasing that I've got some early access to. So if you want to see that, that link is in the description below, but this one is the top 10 most anticipated, so here we go.
Number 10.
Now, number 10, the first one is Royal Visit. Now, this is a Reiner Knizia two-player card game from Yellow. And from what I've seen for Yellow USA, if you're in the North America, this is coming out like February-ish, early next year. But this says it's going to be available to possibly even purchase here at the digital fair. And so this is a reprint from a game back in 2006 called Times Square, where it's sort of like there's these different characters and you're using cards, two-player card game, and you're using the abilities of the different figures on the board with different win conditions. Some of them, hey, if the deck's empty and this character's on your side, then you win. Or sometimes I think you can even win like immediately if you get one of the characters all the way to your side. And it feels like it's, a multiple version of tug of war, where you're playing tug of war with these different characters, playing certain cards in certain ways, and having a strategy there. I like Reiner Knizia's two-player card games, Lost Cities and things like that. So this actually reminds me a little bit of a two-player game I love, Prowler's Passage, which is like 5 tug of wars going on at once. And this feels like it's going to be something like that. And I like a lot of Reiner's games, so this is my first one here, Royal Visit.
Number 9.
The next one is from Pandasaurus Games. It's called Ohanami. Now this is from Stefan Bendorf, mostly known for Quicks and The Game, or at least the ones that I love from him. This is a game where you're drafting cards and you're slotting them into columns. And as you build these columns, the card that you're putting in that column has to either be higher than the highest or lower than the lowest card in that column. But you have multiples, 3 of these columns that you're working with. And each of them have different colored cards, and those different colors score you differently over the course of the game. And so it looks really interesting where you're drafting cards, trying to figure out how to slot them into the right spots, but also thinking about the scoring and how far away are you willing to put the cards there. And you're looking at what other players are scoring and what other cards are out there, and which ones probably aren't going to be coming back. And it just looks like a really interesting, quick but thinky sort of drafting card game, tableau building. It just looks really good. And I've actually talked to a few of my media fellows, and I've heard really good things about this one too. And again, it's Stefan Bendorf, who's tried and true. Pandasaurus puts out great stuff. A lot of their little card games are my favorites from them as well. And so, little easy card game, Ohanami from Pandasaurus, seems really clever.
Number 8.
Now the next one is called My Farm Shop. It's a family game. It's designed by Rudiger Dorn, one of my favorite designers, and it's coming out by Pegasus Spiel. Now it appears to have sort of a little bit of a Machi Koro style mechanism where you're rolling 3 dice, and one of them you get to select, and it gives you a specific upgrade to your farm depending on what the dice face is and what card is there. But then the sum of the other 2 let you run your farm depending on the sum of those dice. But all other players get to do it too. So you could be looking at what 3 dice are there, you could be looking at what you could get from the 3 different dice and the sums of the other 2, but also looking at what the sum of those other 2 will do for other players. Maybe they have something really upgraded in that slot and you don't really quite want to do that, so maybe you do something something else. So it seems like a pretty simple, mechanically sound game, but one that definitely has a lot of depth and one that still has player interaction when it's not your turn, because you get to do stuff on your turn what other people roll. And so it seems like it's sort of a little bit of engine building, resource management. You try to run your farm as efficiently as possible. Simple mechanisms, but it looks like there's some good amount of depth there and good interaction between players. It's sort of a sweet spot for me. And so again, this is from Essen Spiel. Rudiger Dorn's the designer, my farm shop.
Number 7.
The next one is called Baron Voodoo, and this is from Lucky Duck Games. Now, this to me looks like it's sort of an interesting dice game where it's not even about rolling dice, it's about sort of an abstract game where you're moving dice of your color and you're hopping over dice and capturing other dice, and then using the powers of the dice that you've captured, whether it's the dice face, and you can use your own powers. Everyone has a power, but you can also use other players' powers by spending resources and things like that. But in general, you're moving around abstractly, moving these dice, capturing dice, doing powers, but also trying to collect sets of dice for points. And I tend to like these games that have sort of an abstractish nature, but also has ways of special abilities, resource management, has gamery things around sort of a basic abstract game. It looks like a good sort of family weight game. It has some interesting choices. Again, it's from Lucky Duck Games. A cool little theme there, good artwork. Baron Voodoo.
Number 6.
The next one is Castles of Tuscany from Stefan Feld, published by Alea. Now, I love Castles of Burgundy. It's one of my favorite Feld games. I'm not like a huge fan of all of his games. He tends to be hit or miss for me because they're usually very themeless. Typically the games are pretty ugly, but you can't fuss about some of the mechanisms. Are just brilliant in a lot of his games. I do like a handful of them. And this one is one of those ones that's 45 to 60 minutes, right? So now, some of the games that are my favorite of his are in that time frame. Now, granted, I like Trajan. I love Castles of Burgundy, which is definitely longer than that, things like that. But some of my favorite games are in that time frame for him, like Carpe Diem and La Isla, things like that. So in this, it's sort of a 45 to 60 minute game. You're getting 3 actions. You're either getting a card, or placing a tile, or taking a tile. And when you're placing tiles, you get to play that with sets of same colored cards. And each color tile, as you place it, does certain things. They all have different abilities, kind of like in Castles of Burgundy. So from what it looks like, it's got some aspects of what you're doing in Burgundy by laying tiles, putting things down on certain tile colors and using those abilities. But it also seems like it's a much simpler game. It also seems like it's a quicker game. And so I'm down for that. I definitely want to check this out, and that's Castles of Tuscany.
Number 5.
The next one is Paleo. This is 2 to 4 player, 60 to 90 minutes. North America, it's coming out through Asmodee, but it's published by Hans and Gluck in Germany. This is a cooperative adventure game, and it's set in the Stone Age. Players are going to be choosing to go to one location, and you'll have some idea of what you might find there, but you won't know for sure until you arrive. At what point you might, acquire food or resources, or find what you need to craft a useful object, or discover that you can aid someone else in their project, or suffer a snake bite that brings you close to death. So life's full of wonders and terrors in this game, and it includes multiple modules that allow for a variety of people, locations, and quests. And that aspect of going somewhere and you have a kind of an idea of what's going to happen, but not exactly, kind of reminds me of one of my favorite games from this year, Forgotten Waters. It's sort of adventure pirate game from Plaid Hat Games. And the description of this reminds me of that. The production looks amazing on this. The art looks great. To me, it feels like it's going to be a more simpler, more streamlined sort of in that Robinson Crusoe, where you're going and certain things are going to happen and you're trying to figure things out, and that's sort of an adventure game as well, exploration. This gives me that feel from just what I know about it, but it seems like it's going to be a little bit more streamlined and things like that, which I always like. So this one was from Hans and Gluck, and it's called Paleo.
Number 4.
The next one is Cubitos. This is from Alderac Entertainment Group, known as AEG. Designer John D. Clare. This guy is one of my favorites. Custom Heroes, Space Base, all the card crafting games. He does great things. In this, each player has a runner on a racetrack, and you're trying to be the one to win, but you also have a support team, and that support team is represented by all the dice you roll. But each turn you're rolling dice, and you're using those results to move along the racetrack, but you're also buying new dice, and there's all sorts of different dice, all different colors, and each of those dice have different abilities that they'll do, and there's even multiple cards for each different colored dice, so different dice will do different abilities over different games and things like that. Some of the abilities let you take some shortcuts, like running through the water. Others have all players. Whoever has rolled the highest of that die color gets to do the ability only. Some gain you money, and you're using this money to buy more dice. So it seems like it's kind of a cool little sort of dice pool building game where you're buying dice, using the abilities, and trying to get to the end of the race. It just seems very interesting to me. And again, John D. Clare, anything he touches I'm interested in, and this one really speaks to me both in theme and what you're trying to do, and that pool building sounds really interesting. So that is Cubitos.
Number 3.
Now the next one is actually an expansion, but it's for a game that's very popular that I love, but has been out of print for so long, Tobago. And this is called Tobago Volcano and Lava. Now there's changes to the map. Now, in this game, in general, if you're not sure of Tobago, essentially it was sort of like a game of induction where you'd be playing cards and you're trying to find treasure, and it would be like, hey, it's in the largest forest. It's not next to the smallest ocean. It's things like that. And as players play cards, you're narrowing down where the treasure is, and as players play cards, you're figuring out where X marks the spot, trying to get the treasure. It's a really awesome game if you've never played it. I hope somebody will reprint it here in North America soon. But in this case, you can actually play a card. You could say, so if the treasure's not in the largest forest, someone could now play a card that says it's in the largest forest, which normally you can't because that's contradictory. But when you do that, it's replaced by a lava/volcano card. So now it's like, ooh, there's a big volcano that comes on the board at the beginning of the game, and there's some lava tiles. And the card now is going to say it's, next to the volcano or next to the largest lava part. And so it changes what's going to happen. Also, over the course of the game, you're going to be adding more lava, which changes the landscape of the game, where now, before, you might think, oh, well, this treasure is going to be over here. Well, this lava just made that forest no longer the largest forest, so now maybe it's going to be somewhere else. So it's just going to give you a next level thinkiness to the game. It seems like it's going to take a game that I love and make it even better. That's the Volcano expansion for Tobago.
Number 2.
The next one is called ReNature, and it's from Kramer and Kiesling, it's a duo that I love. On their own, they're both amazing designers, and then when they come together to do things, which they do often, I've loved some of the ones they've worked on together, like Coal Baron, one of the most underrated worker placement games, Linko, a great card game, but individually, Michael Kiesling's done Azul and Downforce, Karma's done Downforce. So in this game, you're placing dominoes of animals, and you're placing it so that when you place a domino, one animal matches the animal that it's next to. But you're also when you place these, you're also sort of starting to surround areas of dirt, which essentially is like sort of like an area control. But as you place things, you're placing plants. And those plants, as you place them, you can place a plant of the same size or larger, so that everything there is smaller in that region. So you're trying to have the most plant power. And so once it's finished being surrounded for area control, you're trying to see who has the biggest plant power. They're going to get some points, but also so is the one who pretty much triggered the surrounding of it. And much like in the classic dice game Las Vegas, if there's a tie, they cancel out. So you could swoop in there with a small plant and end up getting points if other two people or multiple people are fighting for it with a larger plant that's the same size. And those mechanisms I love. It definitely seems like a little bit of an abstract. There's some special abilities that you can trigger. These two are just amazing designers, and I love the abstracted nature of this with the dominoes. I like it when games come and they bring things from classic games, but then make a more gamery game about it, and that's what this one's doing. It seems like it's pretty simple mechanically, but it also seems like there's a lot of good thinking there. I mean, so was Azul, very simple thinky mechanically. But look what that game has done. And so I'm really hopeful for this one that it plays out with the way I like it. Everything in this game, abstract-wise, seems really cool. Area control, domino placing, some special abilities, interesting ways to score, ties cancel each other out. Like, all this stuff really hits it, and the art looks really cool. And that is ReNature.
Number 1.
All right, my number 1 is called Almanac Dragon's Road. This is from Colossal Games, designer by Scott Almes, who's done a ton of great games, most notably all the Tiny Epic series from Gamelin Games. Now, the most interesting thing about this is it sounds like this is like the first in a series of Almanac games, and it's a worker placement game where it says each round of the game is played on a different page in the game book. So there's all these different pages. There's an overall map that you can see the different locations, and each of those locations has its own page, which it's with its own worker placement going on, with its own rules and its own little twist. But each of these pages that has a different area is going to be new maps, new locations, new worker placement, new rules. It just looks really cool that they all represent a unique location with a special twist on worker placement. It also says it combines rich narrative and intuitive yet unique game mechanisms that makes every game new in this adventure. And you know, it's probably definitely a lot heavier than this game, but when I first read this and looked into it, it made me think of like Fabled Fruit, which is like, sure, you're playing a little easy, worker placement game, but as the game goes on and as you play game after game, the game changes because different cards come out and you're doing different things, different actions. And this seems like it takes that sort of concept and puts it into a more bigger, grandiose game where you're doing different things every game, but it's all part of this adventure. And it seems really cool to me. I'd be interesting to see, can you play it with different groups, or once you've started to go down a road, do you have to always play with the same group, things like that. But this looks super interesting to me, and Scott Almes always does great stuff. And this is from Colossal Games, and that's Almanac Dragon's Road. Well, I hope you found some new games to look up, and also, maybe you've known about some of these, now you know a little bit more as I've looked into the details. Now keep in mind, these are the top 10 anticipated games at the Spiel Digital Fair. I've also released today a video of my top 10 games that's releasing there that I've already played, that are tried and true, that I've already reviewed, that are amazing. Click the link below, you'll see that there to see that video. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Lucky Duck Games has launched a brand new online shop and are offering you, my viewers, a special discount. During checkout, use promo code GameBoyGeek10 and you'll save 10% on the price of your games. On the Lucky Ducks game shop, you'll find exciting new releases such as Tang Garden, which I recently reviewed, and the link is below, and It's a Wonderful World, as well as award-winning games like Chronicles of Crime, which is one of my favorite cooperative games of all time, and Vikings Gone Wild. So why not visit LuckyDuckGames.com now and find something new to play?